Hi everyone, my name's Junkie and today we're back reviewing another game. Today we're reviewing a game called Game, I'm guessing. You'd think that's maybe a given, seeing as it's on Game Maker, but who knows. Anyway, Catch the Bones is what it's called. Hello, this is my first game ever. It was designed to be a casual game where you can have a little bit of fun after a day of working. I would appreciate it if you could download it and give me some feedback. Below you'll find the link for downloading it and see some images. Thank you all in advance. So yeah, there's a few things to go on. I'm just going to go straight into it. I think I've got to find it first. There it is, Catch the Bones. Okay. I thought this opening screen was pretty cool. The only problem I thought was pressing start to play can be a little bit tricky because I'm using a keyboard and there is no start, so I eventually worked out that was enter. But yeah, after a bit we got in, you see the controls kind of flashed up to you. This wasn't too bad. I feel like these should really be WASD. I mean, actually the keyboard thing works as well. But anyway, I thought to start with the controls were a little bit weird, if I'm gonna be honest. First of all, K is jump and L is dash, and that feels very weird. I don't think that should be like that at all. I definitely think that maybe something that isn't K should be jump. Maybe the space would work. Like, it could be pretty much anything, I'm thinking. Normally people tend to use like arrow keys and then like X and C and stuff, and those kind of keys. I guess it kind of works. Personally, I'd prefer to be a little bit further down. So what I mean by that is I'd prefer to be like M or N maybe, or even enter. I guess it's kind of personal preference. I just feel like K to jump is a little bit unusual, and I don't normally see that. Of course, you know, that might just be me. Other people might feel completely comfortable with those controls, and I mean, they're not terrible because they're next to each other. They do work. It's just taking a little bit of getting used to with the coordination. You can see here I'm not very good at it. So other than that, what have we got? There was actually something as well. I know we haven't got the sound and it wouldn't really work, it wouldn't do it justice, but what it appeared to be was that there was some sort of panning. And what I mean by that is the sound, as you moved from the, if you're on the left side of the screen, you'd hear it in your left ear, and if you're in the right side of the screen, you'd hear it in your left ear. And that was something that I thought was a little bit weird. I'd not really seen it before, but like weird in a good way. It was definitely a welcome thing. I didn't expect it. I didn't even know you could do that in Game Maker. But it's pretty cool all the same. Very nice to see. It's an extra little feature that perhaps other games don't have. One thing that I was going to say, I can't remember it now, but I think it was back on that level. I'll say this instead. This wasn't what I was originally going to say, but anyway. When you respawn, you don't like lose anything, and I guess that's possibly why it's a casual game. It's not got any like intense difficulty or anything. And that's that if you say, here I died, you don't have to go back and collect those bones that you already lost. You're kind of done in that section, so to speak. So you can get a bone in a situation where you maybe not even going to make it out. That's something that I'd maybe consider changing, because once you get into like more complex level design and stuff, stuff might start to get a bit trickier. And the reason I say this is because if you can just die, they could just suicide and like grab a bone. So like here, I don't even need to get out, I can just hit that, and it's absolutely fine. Adds an extra bit of difficulty if you do have it, so maybe that's not what you want to do if it's a very casual game. Normally though, the platformers don't tend to be casual platformers. That's just the nature of them. They tend to be that the only way you can add content is by making them harder. That's just how they work. All you could do is make long, boring levels. I don't think that really appeals to most people. So maybe like either reconsider the platform thing. The reason I say this is because you can very capably have platformers which are maybe comedy based, which aren't as hard, and they will work in general a lot better than just a casual game, you know, just a simple game like this, because people will still feel the difficulty of the casual game, so it'll still be pretty easy, but it won't be boring at the same time. There'll still be things that interest them and keep them going, and that's maybe something to consider. So either go down probably the route of making things harder and appealing to the, you know, the difficult gamers, the ones like me, enjoy a bit of a challenge, or you could go for the more casual comedy aspect, something, or maybe just something that keeps the players kind of intrigued. You could do that several different ways. You could keep adding new features. That's another thing that I don't really tend to talk about actually, is that if you really have an idea that's maybe not like legendary, an idea that's pretty simple but pretty cool, enough to get like a few people there to start with, then what you can do is you can just start releasing like small, small and often updates, and maybe they introduce some new methods, some new techniques, something like that, and that tends to work very well. The games I'm thinking of, like currently I'm thinking of like Terraria, in that they started off with quite a simple game and then updated it and updated it and updated it, and they're still updating it now basically. And that's something that you could do with this, and I don't tend to see with many platformers, to be honest. It tends to be that they do go down the difficult route, but it would probably be nice to see a change and have something that's not impossibly difficult but is still enjoyable. And yeah, as I say, you could do that by adding several little updates as you go along, and the more the merrier basically on that. But I do feel like having the chance to just respawn, it does make it a lot easier, because I can just aim for one bone each time, and that's like it. I don't have any other commitment than that bone. Of course it makes it easier if you do them all in one go, don't get me wrong, but there's no hard and fast rule that you've got to. There was one thing as well, I don't know if you saw there, maybe rewind a couple seconds, but you can actually like freeze. It's going to be hard to replicate here, but you can like get stuck a little bit on a corner, and that's probably to do with some sort of collision somewhere or other. But if you jump and land kind of just right on the corner, you can in fact get stuck, and you could probably use that to your advantage at some point. I'm not really sure why or how. I've not played the game anywhere near enough. You could probably see it at some point. I do definitely feel that the levels are picking up in difficulty, and they're picking up quite well actually. Sometimes you find with these platformers, they go almost like way too hard, way too quickly, or they just never progress at all. They're always the same difficulty. There is actually a seemingly difficulty curve here. I'm not entirely sure if it's actually getting more difficult or whether it's just longer. I'm thinking maybe it's just longer, but it does still work, I guess. Because the longer you get, the more you get set back, the more you have to do the same stuff again. But again, that has potential to get a little bit boring. Yeah, that's the only thing I'm worried about at the moment. I think in terms of the game itself, it's pretty well polished. But probably the biggest problem is that the players that get the game will get bored. And that's kind of the biggest pitfall, I think, with platformer games. alongside with them running out of levels and stuff. That's another big thing. So make sure you've got enough levels, and make sure they're appropriate levels as well. That's kind of the key advice I'd give there. Other than that, like, everything there seems pretty nice. But my only worry is that there's nothing extra. There's nothing that makes me think that this is incredibly different from another platformer, so to speak. And that's something that could attract a lot more people. So anyway, that's going to be my review of Catch the Bones. If you like this video, remember to like, subscribe. What do you guys want to do? And I'll talk to you in the next one.